And so I asked the sheikh, who also happens to be a medical doctor, and I asked him regarding this, and he said, so what? Sorry, because I remember the way he said it. He was like, so what? Right? He said, so what? He said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Ra'd, He tells us that the angels cause the thunder, and yet we know that the thunder is caused by the electricity moving through the air, breaking the sound barrier, if you will. And yet, we wouldn't say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is wrong or that the Quran is false because of modern science. He said the reality is that we believe in both of them because they're both from Allah. But we believe that there are physical realities and there are spiritual realities. And that was the end of his answer. And so I was reflecting upon that for myself. And it takes me back to Surah Al-Mulk, which is really something, and so the rest of the answer, that's the answer that I got for you. But then it takes me back to Surah Al-Mulk, and this is an issue that we always bring up, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala very beautifully, He says, أَوَلَمْ يَرَوْا إِلَى الطَّيْرِ فَوْقُهُمْ صَافَّاتٍ وَيَقْبِضْنَ. Right? So what is it, do you not see the birds flying up above you, some of them with wings outstretched, soaring, and some of them flapping vigorously. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He brings our attention immediately to the fact that these birds are flying over us due to aerodynamics. It's due to the outward sciences. Allah brings that to our attention. وَمَا يُمْسِكُنَّهُمْ إِلَّا الرَّحْمَنِ. Is that right? That's wrong. Nah. What is it that holds them up? Then after telling us the outward reality is aerodynamics. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala immediately says, what is it that holds them up? What is it that holds them up? Other than Ar-Rahman, other than Allah. And so He tells us, there's a science behind it. There's an outward reality. You can study this. You can examine it. But the reality behind it is Allah. Right? And so, and one of the beautiful things about this particular ayah in the Quran, one of the beautiful things about this ayah in the Quran, or its placement in that surah, is what comes before it immediately. Right? What is Allah? We know the ayah. What is Allah talking about immediately before that? Immediately before that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning it. Do you feel safe? A'amintum, right? Do you feel safe from the earth when it shakes, or from the winds when they throw pebbles, stones at you, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then He tells us that this is a punishment and this is a warning. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala draws our attention to the natural phenomena and then tells us that there's an inward reality. This is what comes before it, a warning and a punishment, right? What comes immediately after it? No, not really.
وَلَقَدْ كَذَّبَ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ.
Say it again.
وَلَقَدْ كَذَّبَ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ. فَكَيْفَ كَانَ. Are you saying after the ayah about the tayr?
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, do you think, who is the army? Who is that army that can give you help, right, against Allah? So if Allah withholds His help, who is it that can give you help? Right? And who is it that provides for you if Allah withholds His provision? Yeah, I work, my boss pays me, that's wonderful, but who is it that really gives you your provision? Your parents feed you, but who is it that really gives you your provision? You take the food and put it in your mouth, but who is it that's really satiating you? Right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even says that only, He says that indeed the kafirun, but we say here the ingrates. We don't say the disbelievers. We say the people who are ungrateful, they reject it. So I'm sorry to bring all of this up, but my point here is that what comes after it is that all the things that you get in this life, right? All the benefits that you get, the help, the security, the safety, the provisions, right? Your wants and your fears. All of that is only taken care of. Though outwardly you might see it this way. The police secure you, or the army secures you, or your family secures you, whatever the case might be. And this person gives you food, and that person gives you money, and so these people provide for you. But what is the reality behind it? And so I bring all of this to say that the position of that is the position of that أَوَلَمْ يَرَوْا إِلَى الطَّيْرِ فَوْقَهُمْ صَافَاتٍ وَيَقْبِضْنَ. The position of this ayah, it's placed between these two phenomena. Before, look at the natural phenomena. Look at the world around you. The earthquakes, the winds blow, storms occur, right? But there's an inward reality. We can study what causes these things. We could study geography, right? Geography, where geology, jazakallahu khair. We could study geology where we learn about the Earth's plates and them shifting and rubbing against one another and all of these things. We can study that. But the reality, what is the reality behind even that? So there's a physical reality and there's a spiritual reality. And the same way with safety and security, there are armies, there are police, there are martial arts, there are weapons, there's all these things. But really, what is it that gives you security other than Allah? So there's outward realities and there are inward realities. And so with this question, I'm sorry for the long answer, and that's why I said this might be a mistake, right? But the reality is that whenever we look at these things, we should have, one of our big problems is that we look at the world only materialistically. We claim that we believe, but we spend so much time looking at the world materialistically, forgetting the realities that are behind it. And this is one of our own shortcomings, and one of our own, the fatalities or the poisons of our own hearts, that we forget to look at things through a spiritual lens. And Allah knows best about it, but this is what, is there anything else before we begin?
I have a question. So, if someone invites me and he's a non-Muslim, and I know that at his home he will probably serve wine, and definitely he will have wine. So, what should I do in that case? I mean, I have never had this before, but actually here in the US after I came, it happens now. My advisor, he invited us one day to his house. Then there was wine. He of course didn't offer us wine, that we don't drink, but he drank wine. So
this is problematic. See, it's one thing if it's a public event, it's something else if it's someone's house. If it's a public event, then you can excuse yourself, you can leave, but if it's someone's house, then it takes more tact. And it also becomes a big problem because at someone's house you can't tell them what to do, We can ask courteously, I don't really I feel uncomfortable around that, but then they could easily say, so what, it's my house, and so, you sour the relationship. I have a problem, overall with this. I have a problem overall with this because, we're in a situation where we face these dilemmas where, alhamdulillah. But, so what do you do in this situation? I'm trying to scan my brain and think, of the situations with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam or his companions where they were in a similar situation. And
did the Prophet or the companions, when they were invited to a non-Muslim house, do they go in the first place or not? And if they go, definitely the non-Muslim will have wine. So I don't know, is there anything in the seerah that mentions?
And that's what I'm saying. There's nothing prohibiting visiting disbelievers. There's nothing at all prohibiting visiting them in their homes. And I don't want to assume that the people would just automatically drink in front of the Muslims. I think that would be a mistake to automatically assume that. So I don't know, because we live in such a strange time where people don't. You might have a guest over, but you're discourteous to the needs of your guest. I've actually been in places where, they serve pork, and they're like, we know you don't eat it, we're not going to put any on your plate. Doesn't mean I want to watch you eat it, Alhamdulillah. If you know that there's alcohol that's going to be served, then the very first thing that I would say is if you know that there's going to be alcohol, then you should excuse yourself. You know, I'm sorry I can't make it that day. You know, and you know, we might miss out on a lot of opportunities in this dunya, but so what? You know, because we sacrifice our dunya for the hereafter. It goes back to what I just said. We see things from a materialistic point of view, and we should start seeing things more from an eternal perspective. You know, I might not, you know, be in his favor because I won't go to his house, but I will be in the favor of Allah, and that's actually what's important. You know, and but that's if you're invited and you know that he's going to have something there. If you're there already and he starts drinking, then this is a very uncomfortable situation. And what I would probably say as my advice to you, and this is strictly for me, and I say that because I'm still racking my brain trying to think of an example and I can't find one. But from me, purely from me, what I would say is, you know, find the earliest excuse to exit and exit, inshallah. You know, you might not do it as soon as he uncorks the bottle, right? Or you might make a statement and be like, you know, I'm sorry, I didn't know that you guys would be drinking, I have to leave. You know, I mean, that makes a statement. It does make a bold statement, in fact. And that would be an excellent source of da'wah, you know, honestly. But I don't know your comfort levels. And so I couldn't advise you to necessarily do that because I don't know your comfort levels. However, I would say find your earliest excuse, or, you know, we could say your earliest cue to exit, and you know, as soon as you're able, do that. If you were there with your child, I mean, children are a great excuse. You know, I'm doing that.
I mean,
So,
like all of the social events, like any non-Muslim will have. I mean, like I don't know, but all what I have knew from the social events they have, there's always wine or beer.
Yeah, so like by extension, I did an internship last summer, and one of the events was like this final. They brought all the interns together. They're like, "All right, you guys have to organize a field day sort of for the employees," and like the most important thing and the biggest thing that took the budget was beer and wine. And they were like, "How are we gonna transport it?" And some dude randomly was like, "Salman's got a truck." I was like, "I'm not transporting beer in my truck." But the point being, at the event there, it was, you could say public, but there was, you know, alcohol there.
when I say
What would
public,
I do?
I want to be very clear with what I mean when I say public. I mean, like, if you're at an office or a class get-together, like in a conference room or something like that, at a meeting, you know, anything like this, and then somebody breaks out some wine, then that's what I mean by public, right? I want to be very clear when I say public. When I say public, I don't mean like a ball game where you know that there's going to be alcohol served, but you're not there for that. You're there for, you know, the ball game. I'm talking about when you're at a meeting and so it's closed door, it's an intimate group, and then all of a sudden drinking occurs. This is what I mean. So I honestly see it's very easy for me because you know, I'm coming from a position of I'm coming from a sanitary position. That's my word for the week, inshallah.